I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show, Hotel Mars, Episode N. David Livingston, my co-pilot, my colleague, my co-host, David Livingston, Dr. Space of the Space Show. David, a very good evening to you. We're headed to the moon with the Lunar X Prize, the Google Lunar X Prize. This isn't quite Mars, but how is the moon understood these days, David? Is it a stepping stone for Mars, or is it a goal all by itself?
Hi, John. It is both. A lot would depend on who you're talking to and their perspective. Many do see it as a stepping stone, a learning place, an environment to learn how to live and work and do things in space and then move on outward. And others see it as a destination with lunar South Pole and water and other things that can possibly be commercialized on the moon and used either in situ, meaning in space, or possibly even brought back to Earth down the road if space cost and launch costs can be greatly reduced.
We welcome a beyond space entrepreneurship himself, Bob Richards, because Bob is, he wears several hats, all of them space helmets, of course. He is the CEO of Moon Express, and that is engaged in the the Google Lunar X Prize. He is also looking through a number of his organizations for monetizing, for looking for a profit in space and beyond. Bob, it's wonderful to welcome you to the show. First, we have to do some definitions. We have to lift a little bit. What is the Google Lunar X Prize, and what is Moon Express's ambition in it? Good evening to you, Bob.
Good evening, and very happy to be here. I'm just putting on my space helmet here.
Thank you.
Very happy to be on the show. So the Google Lunar X Prize is a global competition offering a $20 million first prize for the first private organization to reach the surface of the moon with a robotic lander and send back high-definition images and video from the surface of the moon. It's a $30 million competition altogether, and it's incentivizing a new moon race, and this time a commercial moon race, back to the moon. Moon Express is a company that is independently pursuing the development of the vast resources on the moon for the benefit of life on Earth. We are also participating in the Google Lunar X Prize, and in our inaugural mission being planned for 2015, we hope to win that prize and also open up new exploration for minerals and resources that could benefit our future here on Earth and our future in space.
David?
Good evening, Bob. How you doing?
Great, David.
On the Moon Express website, it's moonexpress.com, listeners. You talk about wanting to go to the southern hemisphere of the moon first. Why is that?
Well, the game changer in the moon that we've learned about in only recent years, David, as I think you well know, is that there's water on the moon. And who knew, right? We orphans of Apollo who watched those ghostly images back in the late 60s and early 70s thought that the moon was a dry rock. It was a dead world. But actually, there's water on the moon. And water is like the oil of the solar system. It's a game changer because it's not just usable for life. It's also usable for rocket fuel. So it helps the monetization equation we're talking about to make resources commercially viable from the moon.
Bob, your website, moonexpress.com, has some very fetching graphics on it. And the one, it presents the victory for the Google Lunar X Prize. You have to land on the moon and broadcast back data from the moon. What will it look like when you've won, Bob?
Well, listen, we're going to be seeing very exciting imagery from the surface of the moon for the first time. And you know, we've got images from the surface of the moon from past missions that are decades old. Now we have new technology with immersive type imagery, 3D systems that will allow us to have a better experience as human beings here on Earth, experiencing what our robotic avatars are doing on the surface of the moon. So I think it's going to be a very exciting adventure. It's a precursor to humans eventually returning to the moon, and but we'll be able to experience that. And with vistas on the moon that are just beyond human comprehension that we never got an appreciation for with the low technology, relatively low technology, then high technology back in the 60s and 70s.
So you're putting an iPhone on the surface of the moon and it can fly by itself. Is that it?
It's a moon cam. We're putting a webcam on the moon.
Got it.
And in addition to that, one of our customers, the International Lunar Observatory Association, we're flying a telescope that people will be able to access over the internet and actually drive it and take a look around at not just the lunar landscape, but the stars above, the Earth, and galactic objects.
David?
Bob, the contest is a competition, so do you feel the heat from competitors? I know you're a gentleman, so we're not talking about who your competitors are, but do you feel them breathing down your back?
Well, competition in space, David, competition in everywhere is a good thing, and I'm really, really happy to see the worldwide response to the Google Lunar X Prize. You know, in every X Prize, there are dozens of entries, and not all of them are viable to actually win the prize, but that's almost doesn't matter, because the other reasons for offering this prize are education and inspiration. And I think a result of the many teams, and I think it's about 21 teams competing right now, is that there's a whole new generation of kids out there that are going to discover the moon for the first time. And this will be Moon 2.0, kind of rebooting a planetary interest in the moon, and it's important to us as a species in our future.
Bob, the excitement here is like you are Jules Verne's character, all right? So I address you, Dr. Richards. Here we have a vision of from the Earth to the moon, the landing on the moon, and the success there. The profits here. We've got a number of launch systems now, you know them very well, SpaceX, Orbital Sciences, others coming online, that are looking to profit from payloads in low Earth orbit. There's also talk of mining asteroids. What is your profit plan for the skills that you're picking up right now to win the Google Lunar X Prize?
Well, I think that the first trillionaires will be made out of investments in space resources. And the vast amount of resources on the moon are actually a result of asteroid bombardment. So there is a very one-to-one connection between the resources that are recognized in the asteroid belt and the resources on the moon, because the moon has been pummeled by asteroids. If you look at the moon, you see these craters. Well, those craters are the battle scars of eons, of billions of years of asteroidal bombardment, and each asteroid of metal iron origins has arguably $1 trillion or more of precious metals in it. So imagine how many precious metals and trillions of dollars of value has been accumulating on the moon all these years. So as we look up and try to imagine a future where we're not plundering the Earth and eating our own nest, where we just happen to have a very convenient neighbor in our planetary archipelago called the moon that has many resources that we can apply to Earth's economy and our future in space without devastating our own ecosphere.
David?
Bob, your game plan with your initial launch is the Google Lunar X Prize. What comes after that? What are you shooting for after that, win or lose?
Sure. And win or lose, I think, is the proper statement there. We really value the Google Lunar X Prize, but it's not the reason that Moon Express was formed. Our investors are interested in the long-term, big picture of developing the resources in the moon. Our first mission on 2015 is going forward, whether somebody has won the Google Lunar X Prize before that or not. We're going to be exploring the moon, and David, you mentioned the interest in the South Pole. Yeah, that's where the action is. That's where we believe a lot of the volatiles in the water are. We'd like to do that. We'll be developing a second mission in 2 short years following our first 2015 mission, so about 2017 or 2018. We've announced a mission to the South Pole that will carry a larger permanent vision of the International Lunar Observatory to plant on the South Pole of the moon. And then around 2020, we're planning what we consider the holy grail of our commercial enterprise, is the return of a sample from the moon. About 1 kilogram of material we think could be worth a lot of money, far more than the value of actually going to get it once we have the infrastructure in place.
Bob, you do a lot of public speaking. I see that, and you talk to young people. What are their questions, having grown up without moon landings, without the excitement of the Cold War and the race to the moon over the villainous Soviets? They live in a world where there doesn't seem to be a mission into space. What do they ask you?
Well, you know, it's a very interesting question. It's a different generation, and in many ways, the young people today are so better plugged in than we were to worldwide events and the importance of good stewardship, not just of our planet, but of each other. So their questions tend to be very, very broad in nature. But the awakening that I see as we talk about the moon and space is like reliving the excitement I had during the Apollo era and the early exploration of the solar system. But it's talking about how do we as a species peacefully and rationally develop resources off the earth without carrying some of the immature cultural necessities of being cruel to each other, and how do we do this in a way that is responsible and that helps elevate the social standing and the economic standing of everyone on Earth? So it's a much more socially responsible question that I get from the youth today, and I think they're very good questions, and I think we can accommodate all of them.
Bob Richards is the co-founder and CEO of Moon Express, and we wish him and his Jules Verne characters very well to win the Google Lunar X Prize. David Livingston, Dr. Space of the Space Show, Hotel Mars, Episode N. I'm John Batchelor.